Hey everyone, it's Lizzie. Welcome back to my channel. This is a budget with a friend video. So if you are interested to see the breakdown of a dual income household, then keep on watching. So I did receive some assistance breaking down this budget, and I'm just so thankful to Twin Mama Budgets on Instagram who felt it in her heart to reach out and see if she can help me also review families' budgets. Now, just a disclaimer to let you know, if you had sent in your information to me through the Budget with a Friend form, the Google form, the private information that was on there, I did black it out just because you sent it to me and I want to honor that. But as far as like the numbers go, she had reviewed and broke it down. So I did tweak and add my recommendations to this budget breakdown. So I really hope that this helps anyone that is in a similar situation as our friend here. So let's just go ahead, dive on into how I personally break down the finances using percentages and giving every dollar a job. Here's the information on our friend. They have, like I said, two incomes. It is her and her fiance. She gets paid twice a month and her fiance gets paid once a month, the last day of the month. Tends to vary, so she averaged it out up to about $2,500 that he gets, and she gets paid $1,250 each check. She said that she did not have debt minus student loans. However, I did see minimum payments on credit cards and a car payment, so that is debt, and we should tackle that as a priority as well. She does have some savings. She has cash on hand in a safe, and that amounts to $1,730, and she does have a $2,000 emergency fund in the bank. She has a few goals. One of them is to build her credit, and then the other is to purchase a home, to stop living paycheck let me talk to stop living paycheck to paycheck, and also to save. They have a big day coming up, and it is their wedding, you guys. They will be getting married in April. So of course they, I hope, have been saving up, you know, throughout. She did say that she does have some money set aside for that, but there's certain expenses that come up with wedding planning and unpredictability. So you just have to think about that. And there's somebody making noise in the background, so I apologize. So what I do with this information, I first plug everything in a calendar, just really quickly, some dates. And I only wrote in here paydays. So if you can see, it has like a dollar sign, just because I wanted to see, okay, how can they stretch their dollars to cover their bills? But then we break it down in a bill tracker. So let me go ahead and just keep the bill tracker here, and so that way we can have it side by side. So the bill tracker, these worksheets, by the way, are available on my website for free. You get this, and then there's also a different bundle that contains the bill tracker. Not this particular one, but there is one available to you. And again, it is free, so you can kind of set up your budget this way. All right, so the first thing I like to do is write down all of the bills in a bill tracker. It just is so nice to see it visually all on one page. It is seriously the best thing ever. So how do you use a bill tracker, and how can you make it worth your while? All right, first things first, up at the top there are blank spots. These blank spots are meant for you to write in when your paydays are. On the side here are your bills. You write your due dates, you write the expense, and then you write what the total amount is every single month. Or you write in the average if it's like a water bill or an electric bill that tends to fluctuate month by month. So you wrote in all of your bills, you wrote in all of your amounts that it totals out to be. Now let's go ahead and put in some highlights. The highlights are when you have to have that bill fully funded, meaning it's going to come out of your bank account, right? If you have it on auto draft, you want to have the money in there so that way, one, you're on time with your bill, and two, so you're not going to overdraw your bank account. We don't want that. So I like to highlight when I want to have that total bill completed. So I am assuming on some of these bills that she has already planned ahead with her fiance to pay for the rent, to pay for the larger expenses. And then other ones like these ones down here, the gym membership, I'm assuming she may have set aside funds ahead of time. Same thing with the car payment. But then the credit cards, I just put in the total minimum payment because it's a smaller amount, and I just wrote those in there. But then in the future, we're breaking it down to smaller pieces. That way you can have a little bit more breathing room in your budget. So you wrote those down. Now you are ready to tackle your paycheck budgets. So now we're going to get into the paycheck budget breakdown. So the first one, she gets paid twice a month, on the 10th and then on the 25th. So her paycheck totals $12.50. And we like to use percentages. I got this from Jordan Page. I've talked about her many times on my channel. You can always go back to my prior videos and look it over. And she had talked about, well, try to aim to live within percentages of what your income is. So the goal would be to try to live within 70%, but sometimes that is not doable depending on where you live or how much expenses you have. If you are in debt, I would recommend maybe living within 80% because you probably have larger bills, you might have a car payment, you might have a high mortgage, things like that. So realistically, 70% may not be feasible for you, as it isn't for us over here at this time. So what I did on the worksheet, it automatically has a 70% in there. So I just put in an 8 and I turned that into an 8 for the expenses. So if you can see here, the percentage formula says that the expenses should total your bills, your daily cash envelopes, anything that leaves your bank account. Try to live within that dollar amount. So for her, if we take the $12.50 and we're going to multiply it by 0.8, that is going to give us $1,000 as what the expenses are. The same thing with the goal. That is paying off debt, savings, saving for sinking funds, future upcoming expenses. 20% would be to live within that amount. So that way you have given every single one of your dollars a job. So 20% of her income is $250. She didn't mention anything about giving or tithing, so I'm not going to push that on anyone. I do personally believe in tithing and giving, but that is a personal belief of mine. If you want to do that, then you would just change this 10% as goal and then 10% for tithe. So we have our formula in place. Now let's get into writing in the paycheck budget. So we get into the expenses. Now where we get these expenses and the totals from the bill tracker. We already did the hard work, okay? This part may take a little bit of time setting it up at first, but once you have it set up for that first month, then it just gets easier for you to break down your paycheck budgets this way. So over here, we are working with March the 10th payday. All right. So you can see here, rent, we're going to allocate $150 for rent. These ones here, we're not going to be setting aside. So moving on, we're going to put $15 for gym, $196.91 for the car payment, the credit cards, $35 and $25. And then we have the Sprint bill, $115. Those are the fixed expenses. So that totals out to be $536.91. Going back to the percentage formula, we said that we want to have her live within 80%. 80% is that 1,000. We take the fixed expenses totals that she has to pay. She has to set that money aside. That way it's not a big blow to her budget, okay? So $536.91 is what that totals out to be. So she is left with $463.09 to be within that 80%. Is that doable? Is that realistic? All right. She had said that she wants to budget out $250 for her gas and groceries. She didn't really mention it. However, my friend and I believe in breaking things down in groceries based on your household. So it's her fiance, and she does have 3 kids. So that is a 5-person household. You have to figure out, well, what is a budget for a 5-person household? Being that prices of things is just increasing, you know, a lot of people have been talking about inflation. How do you account for that, right? So if you set aside $125 for groceries per person in your household, what does that amount to? So 125, we're going to multiply that by 5 because it's a 5-person household. Well, maybe your budget should be about $625 for groceries for the month. So that's the number that my friend and I had come up with for this budget with a friend, which is great. It's realistic, it's doable. You just have to be a little bit strategic and looking at sales, looking at your ads, and coming up with a plan before you go to the grocery store. I know it's hard, guys. I have to really listen to myself as I am speaking because it has been a challenge for us as well, but it is doable. And I hope that this kind of gives you that aha when you're looking at this budget review. Breaking that down, we are only going to do these particular categories into her pays. She gets paid twice a month, so we're going to take that total amount, we're going to divide it by 2, and that is the amount of money that she should be allocating from her paychecks only, okay? So again, where do we stand with our 80%? $536.91. We have $463.09 to still be within that goal amount, to not spend more than that. We get into the cash envelopes. If you are a cash budgeter, you can take out 2 separate envelopes, one for groceries and then one for gas. However, I do recommend to think about your spending. What if you wanted to get a cup of coffee? What if you wanted to pick up a snack for yourself or for your kids? What if you are wanting to take them to the barber or buy some nails for yourself and do a press-on nail manicure like I have done myself here? You have to be realistic and give yourself permission to spend. Even though you're in debt and you want to grow savings for future goals like purchasing your house, still give yourself permission to spend, even if it's just a little bit. So working with what you have, we've broken down the gas, $125, like we see here, $312 for the upcoming weeks. Be strategic with that. I don't recommend taking the full amount of the money from the paychecks. Break it down week by week and only focus on that particular week's worth of purchasing at the grocery store, okay? That's just a recommendation there. So if we take the $125 for gas and then we take the $312 for groceries, that still leaves us with $26.09 that we have wiggle room. So I just put in here, you know, spending and buffer, whatever you want to do. There's $25, well, $26 really, but I just put it at $25 that you can allocate, take it out in cash, I don't know, put it aside, but that is money that you have permission, because it's within that 80%, that you can spend on whatever you want, okay? Discuss it with your fiance of what you would want that money to go towards. So $462 is what this category gives you, and you are under that 80%. So you see how that works? You see how you're able to pay your bills, do a little bit of spending here, be realistic, and then look at this. We still have money left to break down for savings and then also for debt payment and other savings accounts. So these are the sinking funds that she had mentioned. She wants to put money towards car maintenance, kids, gifts, vacations, birthdays, and save for a new car. And she also wants to save for a future home. Okay, so that's a lot. But she still has some debt. So you want to take into account, you know, the necessity of paying off debt as well. But it is smart and it is wise to save for these future expenses, because these things do come up and you don't want to use your credit card for it. If you know that you are expecting a birthday for your kiddos, you want to save money for their birthdays. If you are planning your wedding, you want to make sure that you're saving for if it's your honeymoon, if you just want to go on a weekend trip. I don't know what your current situation is. Save ahead for those expenses. Save for paying off debt, right? Save so that way you don't accumulate more debt. $100, you could maybe apply that to your kids' sinking fund. But I just wrote down all of the sinking funds here that she had wanted to save for, and maybe she can figure out what is a priority. I definitely recommend put the money into your highest priority first, then work your way down little by little into the less of a priority savings goal. Where are we left with in our budget? Right here we had $713.09 after paying the bills. Then up here we allocated funds for cash envelopes. That was $462. Okay. Then we want to put some funds to sinking funds, which I just said $100 for that. We're still left with $151.09 to budget out for. I'm just going to leave the 9 cents. Leave it in your bank account. It's okay. And then you can take $151 and put it to your home. You could put $151 and apply it to debt. Again, it all depends on what your current situation is and what is your highest priority. Okay? That is paycheck number 1. Let's move on to paycheck number 2. Same dollar amount because this is her paycheck. Same percentages that we are working with. However, they're different expenses, and that is going back to the bill tracker over here. We wrote down what we wanted to set money aside for. We have the rent, we have the gym, the car payment, a portion of the credit card. So you see it's less of a blow. Before we did the full $35, but now we're breaking it down by paycheck. So we're going to set aside $11 from that. Same thing with the Spectrum. We're going to break that down even smaller, and we're going to put $8 aside for that. Disney Plus, that's $7, so we're good with putting that full payment from this paycheck. And then we have the Sprint payment, $117 is going to be allocated for that. Lastly is Netflix. Okay, so that totals out to be $517. So $1,000 is our 80% rule that we're working with, and we're going to subtract the $517. What does that leave us with? $483 that we can still use to be within that 80%. We're still under, you guys. We are still under. After putting money to gas and groceries for the rest of the month, again, I recommend breaking down your groceries weekly and not focusing on the full pay period cycle because you could possibly use up the money faster. Focus on just a week and only grocery shop like once, maybe, I don't know, twice, it depends. But try to go once a week and do your groceries, and then go back into your bank account, take the rest of the money for the following week, and you might even have money left over from your grocery budget. $483 is what's left after paying the bills. We're going to set money aside for gas, $125, and we're going to set money aside for groceries, $312. That leaves us with $46 that we can still spend. Give yourself permission to spend. I would recommend adding some sort of a spending, personal, maybe allowance for your kids. I don't know what you guys want to do with that. These are just ideas and suggestions based on the budgets I have personally reviewed. I would definitely recommend adding some sort of a spending allowance for you, for your fiance, because come on, you have to be honest. You might end up going out to eat, right? Snack, go out for ice cream. Who knows? Buy yourself a cookie. But you get the point of that. You still have room in your budget, and it's okay to add that in. So think about what is your actual spending like. Be realistic with yourself. So spending and buffer, I would say put $40. It could even be $45 or the full $46, okay? You give yourself that room. So that's the second paycheck that you can allocate for the cash envelopes. What are you left with? Okay, so let's take the $733 that's remaining. Let's move this aside and zoom it in a bit. $733, and we're going to subtract the $477, which is this total cash envelope category. $256 is what is left to still budget out for. Okay, we're within that goal amount. We're actually a little bit over the goal amount if you're breaking it down this way. Remember, these are the sinking funds that she had wanted, setting money aside for car maintenance, her kiddos, gifts, vacation, birthdays, a new car, home. We're thinking about purchasing a home. Now, just keep this in mind. I know she has a wedding coming up in April. She could put the money, all of the excess, to her wedding fund. But I am hoping that the wedding expenses already paid for. This is not including wedding costs. So just a disclaimer, after setting this money aside, if she doesn't have her wedding paid for, disregard what I've written in here and put the total remaining to wedding, okay? This is just recommendation. This is just my perspective, and also my friend who helped me review this budget. We're saying, you know, plan for sinking funds, $56 going to that. We have $200 left to budget for. She wants to save for a house, and she didn't mention that she had debt, but I see that she has debt. She may not have thought about that, but one thing that you might want to consider, if you have a phone that you haven't fully paid off and you're making installment payments, that's a form of debt. Your car payment, that is a debt, and any credit cards that you have, that's debt as well. So $150, we'll say that that is a pretty big goal of hers, is to have a home. You can flip-flop these. You can maybe put $150 towards extra debt and $50 to home. Again, this is just an example of how you could break down your budget. If you are in a similar situation that she is, $50, you are at a zero-based budget for paycheck number 2. Now let's move on to her fiance's paycheck, which is the third paycheck of the month. He gets paid once a month. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to look at the percentage formula. And for him, he makes $2,500. We're going to multiply it by 0.8 to give us that 80%, and that gives us $2,000. And that leaves $500 to be applied to goal, which again is paying off debt, savings, all of that. So for his, we have a little bit of a different scenario over here for the expenses. So let's look at that really quickly. We've broken it down on the bill tracker. So we're just going to transfer that information over to the paycheck budget, as you can see that we did. So we have 15 going to rent, the life insurance, Peacock, Fubu TV, credit cards, gym, the car payment, Spectrum, and Sprint. So you see how that has broken down, and it's really nice to just look at this and go down the column as you're writing up your paycheck budget. Again, these are available on my website as a freebie, so you can head on over there. The link is always in the description box down below. All right, so let's move that to the side. We're done looking at the bill tracker since this is the last paycheck of March. So the total for the expenses, it is a little bit tight, but keep this in mind. He gets paid the last paycheck of the month, and she just got paid a couple of days prior. So we've planned for the meals, we've planned for gas, some spending, you know, so some things may be a little bit tight on this particular budget as far as the expenses goes, but we're still below that by $5. He's covering a lot of the bigger expenses here, which is great. All right, we have a $5 wiggle room. You can put that $5 towards spending, or just not include that in any of the cash envelope categories. So we are left with $505 to break down to other goals. So here's where you can figure out what is your most important priority. What's the priority here? Okay, sinking funds, you know, you should apply funds towards these expected events that are going to happen. So we're going to say that $205 is going to be allocated for the sinking funds. I forgot to write that in up here. $205. So we're gonna put that in here. We have $300 left to be at a zero-based budget. Is it a goal of yours to get the new house, which I see that you want that? Do you want to put the full amount to extra debt? That is completely up to you. I just put $250 towards new house and then $50 towards extra debt. You are at a zero-based budget. Play around with how you want to have your money work best for you, but just know that if you don't have a true plan and a realistic plan, sometimes it could be a little bit hard, you know, mapping it out. So be true, be honest. Keep in mind to add in a certain spending for you guys. Break down your groceries every week, not the full amount. Figure out what your true debt is and list them out, smallest to largest. I definitely recommend that debt snowball, because it gives you more of a satisfaction once you pay off a low debt amount and then roll in that minimum payment towards the next debt. Okay, so I definitely will recommend to you, figure out what your true debt totals are, figure out what your most important goal is, and work towards saving for that. But I hope you guys enjoyed this budget with a friend video. If you did, and if you have any other recommendations for our friend, definitely leave it in the comments. We learn and grow from each other here in this community. And yeah, guys, that is everything for this budget with a friend. If you enjoyed it, again, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you guys right here in a brand new video. Bye, guys.